Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to this presentation. As the title says, Kodrina and I will discuss the current state of OGC and OSGeo collaboration. So we're a few years into the renewed MOU, so this is a bit of an update on how things are going as we marching into full swing. We'll give an overview of the Memorandum of Understanding and some background, and then we'll talk about what we've been up to lately, as well as provide next steps and some advertisement on future collaborative events. So why is OSGeo involved in OGC? So last year at FOSS4G 2023 in Prizren, Angelos, Tsotsos, and I, this is Angelo's car. We drove to Prizren and he got a flat 1 hour before we reached the site. After some stressful moments, we were able to pull the tire off, and I went to the mechanic and they patched the tire and we put it back on. We couldn't speak the same language between myself and the taxi driver and the mechanic, but interoperability saved us because even in a different country and standards, they were able to patch it and bolt it back on. So that's a good value proposition of why it makes sense for OSGeo to be involved in OGC, because it will give the software that we all develop much more capability and flexibility if we try to implement and support the standards as well. Recap, we have an updated MOU as of January 2022. This was signed by OSGeo and OGC, so this is 2 or 3 years in now. So highlights of the MOU. The MOU provides an organizational membership or an associate membership to OSGeo, and it's an unlimited membership, so any OSGeo charter member will be able to join and participate in OGC. But basically, the MOU talks about collaborative joint code sprints, identifying open source technologies that we can use for reference implementation. OGC has a reference implementation program, a reference implementation thread as part of their compliance program, and OSGeo is a good and natural fit for something like that, as well as coordination, and to try to get OSGeo more involved in how the OGC develops standards. So at this point, let me just go on to the next slide. The OSGeo Standards Committee. Okay, I'll pass it over to Kodrina in a second. As a result, the Standards Committee was created in December of 2022, and that allows any charter member to become a member of the Standards Committee and participate in OGC. So the links are there for you to participate, and there's also a mailing list where we have some discussion. So that's ongoing, and at this point I'm going to pass it over to Kodrina.
Okay, thank you. So one thing that maybe would be very useful to emphasize is that to be a part of the to be able to participate in OGC programs, as we'll show you further from the part of OSGeo as an organization, it is required for you to be a charter member. So that's one thing I'd like to stress. So as Tom was saying earlier, after the updated MOU and the updated position of OSGeo as an organizational member within the OGC, there have been some updates in the member activities as well from OGC side. Here are some numbers that we have. I'd like to draw your attention towards probably more not necessarily more relevant, but with a more impact for the OSGeo community with respect to the OSGeo projects that are reference implementations. And we have here the 7 that are reference implementation at this point. Of course, we have activity from different members in the Standards Committee of OSGeo within the activities of OGC. In different working groups, standards groups, or even domain groups, working groups. So as Tom was mentioning, although we do have intense activity with OGC when it comes to geospatial standards, the committee that we have within OSGeo is not specifically only for OGC. So it's for geospatial standards in general. So don't think that if you don't work with, I don't know, with OGC standards, you're not eligible, let's say. Moving forward, so I think I'll pass it to you because you are much...
I'll stay here. What the heck? So some recent events. OGC now runs code sprints. It's been a few years already, but the OGC has a code sprint program that gets clients and server developers involved to test the specifications as well as do some experimentation. So this helps the specifications improve, and this helps with real implementations as well. So we had a code sprint in the fall of 2023 at Geovation in the UK, and that had a number of different client and server developers. We focused on GME, which I think was a military-based image format, as well as the MUDI standard. So thanks to Geovation and thanks to Ordnance Survey, as well as ESA and GA, DSTL, and the EU Satellite Center for hosting that. And there was some good participation of open source tools at that sprint. Next slide. We had the joint sprint in Evora in February of this year, and this was with OGC as well as Apache Software Foundation. So there were numerous projects there. I think there was maybe 50 or 60 people, if I'm not mistaken, and a lot of good interoperability experiments. So here you can see some screenshots of OGC API moving features, and working with some JSON there. And there were a number of there was an EDR client, a generic EDR client that was demonstrated by one of the participants, and that was very valuable as well. So that was our annual joint sprint event that happened in February. Next slide. As part of that joint sprint event, because there was so much open source community there, we also ended up having a PyGeo API sprint in the 2 days that ensued, and that was the first time we ever had that sprint. So I think it was a nice byproduct of having people there at the joint sprint event to be able for other teams to carry on with their own activities, just to minimize the travel and to maximize the face-to-face interactions. Next slide. And in July, we had an open standards code sprint back in Geovation in London, and we concentrated on map markup language, or MapML, data quality, training data, AI, as well as implementing a number of validators. So there you can see some collaboration happening in the room. So we've had a number of sprints. OGC typically runs between, I would say, 3 sprints a year, and one of them is the joint sprint with OSGeo and Apache Software Foundation. Next slide. There's a sample of some of the projects that have participated. It's not an exhaustive list, but there's a number of projects from OSGeo that are typically participating in these code sprints, and it's a really valuable way of increasing that collaboration. And there's not only open source developers in the room at these joint sprints. There's also people writing proprietary software as part of the OGC their role in the OGC specification development. So it's a really nice cooperation, which maybe we would not have seen as much back in the past, but it certainly shows a strong signal of the collaboration between anybody who writes these standards-based software. So true interoperability at its best. Next slide. Finally, on the OGC side, they do have a compliance. So I mentioned the compliance program. They have a compliance and testing team engine, it's called, and they are currently an incubating project. And there's an ongoing activity to complete that incubation, so they become a fully fledged OSGeo project. So I think this is something that makes sense. It's sort of a neutral service that OGC runs for all the applications to determine compliance, and I think it makes sense to put it into something as open and transparent as OSGeo. So we look forward to that contribution.
Thank you. So we have some next steps, and also even more if you have not been yet convinced to getting involved, although maybe standards is not the coolest thing in the world. I don't know, I'm just saying. Sorry. Sorry. Going further, there are some code sprints already planned. So the planning is already in motion that you can look for. The first one that I'd like to mention is the OGC code sprint. That will happen in the first quarter. It is open to all OGC working groups. It is led by OGC staff, which also means that they are the organization of the sprint is a bit more I wouldn't like to say formal, but it's more clear with, for example, at the end of the code sprint, you have an engineering report saying what you've done, what were your plans, what you've done, some demo, and so on and so forth. And this is also a good thing with respect to what gets out of the code sprints as a result. Even if you haven't been there, there are a lot of very good engineering reports in the different from these different working groups and activities that are run together or only by OGC. So this is going to be held in London. All the events are hybrid. So, but for the participation, physical participation is going to be in London. Going further, of course, as mentioned by Tom, with the renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding between OSGeo and OGC, we have a joint code sprint together with them and also the Apache Foundation. This is going to happen in 2025 in connection with a larger event. The event is the Living Planet Symposium, which is the main conference of the European Space Agency that happens every 3 years. So if you work with Earth observation, even if you do image analysis or if you develop code, that is the place to be. So I think this is a very good opportunity for people working in the geospatial field. This is going to happen in Vienna, in Austria, at the end of June, from 23 to 27th of June. So please take a look at this opportunity. So apart from all of this activity, let's say, there are certain other opportunities and elements that can interest you with respect to what OGC is providing to the international community, to which OSGeo members also have access to. And here I'd like to just mention a few of the things. For example, the innovation program. I think now it's called Collaborative Solutions and Innovation Program, something like that. And they have a different call for participation that are already also funded. And you can see that with respect to the different themes that they address, the action is led by OGC together with NASA, with ESA, and of course this depends on the topic. So please just take a look on the open calls there. Of course, join, vote, and lead. Not only with respect to standards, but also domain working groups. Here are listed just a few of them. There are a lot of them available. Again, I want to stress that to be a part of the OGC members through OSGeo membership, you need to be a charter member. Of course, make your software OGC compliant. The marketing advantage, I think, it's obvious for anyone in the room. Add your software to the OGC compliant site. Of course, lead and participate in code sprints. That's always an opportunity. And make sure that our voice as OSGeo is heard internationally. Exactly as Tom was saying, that is a place where we can collaborate with also with proprietary developers. So it is like maybe a playground where we all meet and develop. Okay, these are two 2 screenshots on how the OGC portal looks like. Take a bit of time, maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes to go through the website and get familiar with how it looks like, how they have their information structure. They're pretty thorough in that place. And Tom, back to you.
Thank you. So, in closing, why collaborate? Why get involved with your OSGeo hat? Why get involved in OGC? From my perspective, the standards are an important piece of the puzzle. There is some grunt work that's needed. They are easier than ever, I think, to develop. But by getting involved, you can see how the standards development process actually happens, and you can also get involved in that process. It's never been easier to become involved in developing a standard at OGC. OGC primarily operates most of their standards on GitHub now, and they are public and open for comment. The standards do go through a vote by the standards working group and by the technical committee, and that is in the OGC membership. But participating in the standards development, anybody can participate. Anybody can open an issue, anybody can make a pull request, and so on. So it's very open and very transparent compared to the past. And if you want to get involved in what that looks like, that would be great. So if you see a standard and you don't quite like it, and you say, oh, why does this standard do that? You are no longer an observer. You can be a participant in that process to help make it better and improve it. Also, when you collaborate through your OSGeo charter membership, you will be representing OSGeo at OGC, and with that you have access to all of the OGC pending documents that are internal and everything that's on the portal from the screenshots that Quadrina mentioned in the previous slide. So you get early access to not only the standards, but also the engineering reports and best practices and other documentation that are circling around in the consortium. It's also valuable to connect with, again, thousands and thousands of like-minded people who are into geospatial and they're into standards, and a lot of them are software developers. So it's a very good network for connecting with people who are interested in the same things. And by doing so, your software product, your FOSS4G software, OSGeo software, or what have you, it helps give you equal footing, and that's always been the value proposition of open standards, is that you can play on the same playing field with any other vendor or other open source tool, no matter how big or small you think your project is. You also have access to a number of different funding vehicles as a result. How to collaborate. So now that I know everybody here wants to collaborate, how to collaborate? Well, how do we collaborate? There's a standards program, so you can participate in a standards working group. You can participate in a domain working group. You can participate in the code sprints. They are hybrid, so if you choose to come in person, that is great. And if you choose to join hybrid, that is great just the same. The OGC has an innovation program that funds targeted development of these standards. So there are sponsors who provide funding who are looking for specific things to advance the specification program. And those innovation programs, such as test beds, have funding attached to them. So you can apply and have access to funding to help you move your software product along while advancing the goals of the consortium. There's also, through the incubation program, if you become an OGC project, you have access, an OSGeo project, you have access to funding, and being accepted as an OSGeo project, saying that you support the international standards, or more so the OGC standards, is very valuable to help you move forward as an OSGeo project. And you can also sign up with the compliance program. So your software would be registered as a compliant product in the OGC database under the OSGeo organization. So that's valuable, and if you want, you can even sign up your product to be a reference implementation. And I know there's a few reference implementations that are sitting in the crowd, which is great, and a good testimonial for that matter. So there's various ways that you can get involved and have access into how OGC works as we are OSGeo charter members, and that's the I guess the value proposition of this presentation is providing an update on what we've done since the MOU, future events, why we think this is valuable, and why we in that we hope that there's more participation, additional participation, because I think there's a lot of untapped opportunities that we can capitalize on moving forward. I think that's it. Thank you.